Patrick McNeil here with you at the intermission, joined now by Halifax Mooseheads General Manager Cam Russell. Full disclosure, we're recording this prior to Friday's game. Cam, what are your thoughts on the season thus far for the Mooseheads?
Well, I think we played all right. We've got a lot of good top-end talent, and after that we've got a lot of young rookies that are starting out, and we've got a head coach that it's his first time coaching Major Junior, and I think he's done a good job, but it's a process, and I think we're probably exactly where we thought we'd be.
You talk about your coach, JJ Daigneault, fifth coach in 5 years for Halifax, and you've had some big-name coaches, which is good. I guess the downside, maybe you'd like more stability, and tell us maybe some of the pros and cons of what's gone on behind the bench the last few years in Halifax.
We had Dominic Ducharme here for 5 years. Dom was a wonderful coach. After that, you bring in a couple of guys, and some move onwards and upwards, and stability is a nice thing, but we're not just developing players, we're developing coaches. A guy like Andre leaves and gets the opportunity to coach back home in Ottawa, so that was a tremendous opportunity for him. Eric Fayeux goes up to the pro level, so those are good situations for them. But yeah, it would be nice to have somebody come in and be here for a couple of years and let the players get used to him.
Injuries have been a big story around the Q this year, and your team not exempt from that. You missed Jared McIsaac up until the last game. Has it made it maybe a bit tough to know what you have on your lineup?
Yeah, but it gives you the opportunity to evaluate some of the other guys and some of the other young players that come in. It's an opportunity for them to take advantage of. When those chances come along, you got to make sure you take the most of it. And Robinson has come in the lineup, and he's played very well. One man's loss is another man's gain.
Go back to last year, obviously your team was somewhat active at the trading period. Could have bought more, you end up losing to Rouyn-Noranda. How do you look at that in retrospect? Do you wish you had done more? Do you like what your team did based on where you're at this season?
That's a comment that a lot of people make that's not really sure that they're totally hockey geniuses. Everybody thinks that you've got to buy all these players at the trading period of Christmas, but the reality is we started building our team with McIsaac and Grew at the 2016 draft. It cost a lot to move up in the draft to pick those players. We got Lavoie, we got Gravel. We traded for Morand at the beginning of the year. We traded for Safin, who was injured. Traded for Aslan. So we tried to put our team together prior to the Christmas deadline. But you get to a point where you only have so much money left. You can't keep spending your assets. And we had a great team. We went as far as we could go without winning. All in all, it was a successful year. It would have been nice to win, but it was a pretty good year.
Another big part of a general manager's job at this level is your imports, and I'm sure you're happy right now that two of your imports are away getting international experience. Wanted to focus in on Senna Peters from Belgium. We don't see that a lot. We see Sato in Quebec from Japan. What corners of the earth are you guys going to unearth players? It's nice to see some different backgrounds of the queue.
Yeah, we're going to start scouting in Spain and Portugal pretty soon, too. Have some nicer trips. You look at women's hockey. It's not just the U.S. and Canada they're winning now. Other teams are emerging as contenders. And you look at Finland, you look at Sweden, you look at the Czech Republic. There's a lot of good hockey players out there. They're not just coming from a couple of countries anymore. They're coming from all over the world. And that's a great thing. It just makes for a better product on the ice and makes for a more interesting championship down the road.
Talked about injuries on your team and around the league, but really it's been tough to gauge just based on all the teams being so close. Is this maybe one of the more competitive years you've seen as a general manager? Does that make it difficult for GMs to make a decision on what direction to go?
I think it's about the same. I think you hit this time of year and there's 5 or 6 teams that are competing for it, and there's always 1 or 2 teams that maybe surprise you that are going to go for it. I think if you look at our conference, it's a real tough conference. The first round, there's going to be a real good team beat out. In the second round, there's going to be 2 great teams beat out. So I think the teams that are going to load up have started to do that early. They're going to have to, because it's going to be a battle to get to the finals this year.
See, Jeffrey Burge comes in this year as a free agent. I know a lot of these English teams in the Q try to work that Ontario pipeline. That's something you see your team doing more in the future.
Yeah, I think every team tries to do that. I look at Jim Holton. I think he's done a great job over in Charlottetown with the Ontario pipeline. Like you say, they've got half the population of Canada. I think they had a couple of years ago 45% of the Bantam hockey players in Canada, so they don't have a spot for all those players. Occasionally, some good ones slip through. If you're fortunate enough, you get those guys.
Yeah, a lot of work goes into that for sure, and it's not an exact science. We look at where your team is now. You still have some games left before. Do you know what this team is going to do at Christmas? Is it a buy or sell year?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. We're taking it one day at a time, and we assess things on a daily and weekly basis. Bobby comes into town next week. We'll have some good conversations, and we'll see where we're at.
How much of that depends on what you're being offered? Does a team decide to buy or sell, or do you see what the market is? And maybe a little bit of both.
Every team's different. I think for us, we'll make an educated decision, and once we assess everything, we'll move forward from there. And if you're a seller, it doesn't mean you're going to sell all your assets If you're a buyer, doesn't mean you're going to go and buy everything at Christmas, like I said before.
Well, it'll be interesting to see it play out. Thanks for this, Cam. Best of luck the rest of the season.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Cam Russell, General Manager of the Halifax Mooseheads, joining us at the intermission. You're listening to CarStar, Cape Breton Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.